Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Happy February. Where did January go? I just blinked and it's gone. Just gone. Anyway, and it's sunny outside and you're here. And so pat yourselves on the back for just getting here today, right? No rain, no torrential flooding. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, a little housekeeping. If you need to get up and take a call, feel free to just step out into the hallway. The powder rooms, the restrooms are just down the hall. So, you're among friends here. If you need to get up and go powder your nose, that's fine. And I just want to introduce myself. But first, I want to ask, who are our groupies? Who's been here before? Raise a Nice. Look it, the gang's all here today. That's awesome. All right, are there any newbies today? First timers? Okay, we've got a handful. Well, welcome. Nice to have you. For the newbies and even for the groupies, I just want to give you sort of the rundown of the year, and we're furiously working on getting all of the upcoming seminars on the websites so you can go and sign up for the ones that look intriguing to you. So today we're talking about selling a home in a shifted market. Next month, healthy living for your brain and body. I think that's going to be really interesting. If you've heard Linda Fedrini speak before, we're going to have a doctor and someone from Alzheimer's, so that's going to be really good. April, somebody was wanting to know, how do we get rid of our stuff? Cut the clutter. April is cut the clutter. And you know who you are. You know who you are out there that needs to come to that one. So April 5th. May 3rd, we had such an overwhelming response to the cannabis and seniors last year. We're doing cannabis part 2. We just didn't get half of the questions answered. And we are going to be bringing back Allie, and then a doctor. We actually got a physician to come and speak, which is really hard. June, reverse mortgage to age in place or to purchase and never have a house payment. That's kind of a sweet deal right there. In July, we are going to be talking about staying in place, right? AKA stay and put. How do you age appropriately and safely and happily in your own home? August, we are going to talk about how to tour a retirement community. That's going to be interesting. September, emergency preparedness. That's always a good thing. And then October, driving after the age of 80. And November is titled An Attorney, Financial Advisor, and Funeral Director Walk into a Bar, ... That's going to be interesting, too. And then December is going to be always a popular one. I haven't done it for a while, but it's going to be some past clients, people that have downsized and are here to tell the tale. So you'll get the real deal from them, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then things to be thinking about, things that they have learned through the process. So hopefully there's something there that intrigues you to come back and visit us again. I want to give a shout out to our amazing education partners. If you are an education partner and you are in the room, please stand up. We'd like to acknowledge you and your participation. All of these wonderful folks in their either communities or companies, they believe in community education and supporting our boomers and seniors in the area. And so we have got Atria Senior Living. Woo, woo, woo. We got Better Days Home Health Care. We have CareQuest, Transition Partners, Transition Advisors, Megan and Julianne. Carlton Senior Living. Who's here from Carlton? Aha, I thought I saw you sneaking. Clar's Auction Gallery. Derek. Custom Moving and Hauling. I know you guys are back there. Dayna Wilson. Real Estate. Del Monte Group, Financial Advisors. Family Matters. There you go. Kim. Kisco, we've got Byron Park and Kensington. I think they have a meeting today. Mutual of Omaha, I saw you, Marty. Mutual of Omaha Lending for reverse mortgages, and the Reutlinger Group. There you are. Oh, hi. Great. So we thank them so much for their support, and that allows us to continue to bring these to you free of charge. So we've been doing this again since June 2017. Can you believe it? Every single month. And we're still going strong. So when I went to an Eagles concert a couple years ago, they said, if you keep paying, we'll keep playing. So, if you keep coming, we'll keep presenting these to you. And I'm always open to ideas of topics that you want to learn more about. So just give me a holler. I'm also going to ask that you take some notes if you have questions. And then at the end, we're going to save at least 15 or 20 minutes for your questions, because we've got a really strong panel here of experts. And I bet you're going to have a question or two. So write them down. If you're like me, you might forget. So that'll help you remember. And then I do want your evaluations back, but bless your hearts, I know you think, I'm really good, but I cannot read minds. So some people say, yes, call me. No contact information, none. So I don't know, my crystal ball's a little fuzzy sometimes. So just give us the information we need. If you want consultation with myself, any of the speakers, any of the education partners, just let us know. We'll get you all hooked up. So without further ado, I will introduce myself, and then we're going to introduce our speakers today. I am Dayna Wilson. I'm a seniors real estate specialist with Keller Williams Realty. I started out in institutional grade real estate, have my securities licenses, and after the big year in the market in 2008, dipped my toe into residential, and I've never looked back. I soon discovered that my favorite people to be with and work with and serve are people my age and older. And so ever since then, I've gotten extra certifications in education to better serve people over 65 with their real estate needs. And been doing that since 2006. And I'm going to now invite Stephanie Anderson to introduce herself to us and tell us a little bit about who she is and what she does.
Thank you, Dayna. Hello, good morning. My name is Stephanie Anderson. We own Anderson Brother Movers. My dad started the business in 1976. We use full-time employees. I've been with the company for 10 years, and I will eventually take over the business. So really looking forward to presenting to you today. We do specialize in senior moves. We work with the senior communities, and as my parents age out, I think my dad realizes more and more how important it is to be educated in what opportunities there are to utilize in their community. So that's why I'm proud to be a presenter or a speaker today. So thank you.
Nice. Thank you for being here. Karen, tell us who you are.
Hello, I'm Karen Nelson. I'm with Janice Style Staging. Janice Dyson started the business about 25 years ago, and I've been there about 4.5 years. And we are not primarily, but we do quite a bit of our staging work in Rossmoor, but we also help people transition from their homes into Rossmoor as well. We do all sorts of staging, consulting, design, kind of full service, so if we can help in any way, we're glad to. Thank you.
And you do help me outside of Rossmoor as well. Yes. Kurt, who are you?
Good morning. I'm Kurt Lenhart with Lenhart Home Services. We're a home inspection company. We're a family-owned company. It's my son and myself. I've been inspecting buildings for 24 years now for my clients. And prior to that, I was a heating and air conditioning and plumbing and electrical contractor. So this is basically all I know is homes. I can't be a doctor or a lawyer or anything, but it's just buildings and homes. So been working with Dayna for quite a few years, and we'll just go over what you should expect on a home inspection for you. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions also.
These three are part of my extended team. I know them, I love them, I trust them, I work with them a lot. So I'm really excited that they were willing to give their time to be here with you today. The way we're going to present today is we're going to kind of highlight 10 mistakes that you don't want to make. All right, so that's sort of our outline today. And the first mistake is not taking into account how the market has changed. So who thinks the real estate market has changed in the last year? If you watch the news, you know, they're happy to tell you how dismal everything is. It's not as bad as they say, but let's just, like, if we look at all of last year, I mean, we could have spent an hour and a half just on the statistics and what's going on in the market, but there's other things to talk about. And I actually may do a breakout, and we can talk a little bit more about that at the end. Excuse me. But if we look at last year, pending sales, closed sales, and dollar volume of sales in our area. And when I say our area, it's not all of Contra Costa. It's La Miranda, out to Concord, out to Clayton, and then out to San Ramon. So if we draw a circle, that's our area. That's our regional statistical area. All of those things, pending, closed, and total sales volume, were down 40%. Year over year, right? Yeah. And active listings from 2021 were 130. They went up to 400. So active listings actually went up over 200%, which is interesting. Average sales price across the region stayed at 0%. It didn't increase and it didn't decrease. However, real estate is super hyper focused, right? So if you're selling your home in Orinda, it doesn't really matter what homes are selling for in Pacheco, right? It's a different market. There's even different markets within, let's say, Lafayette, or within Walnut Creek. Different communities, different neighborhoods, sometimes a different school district makes a big difference. So, you know, if you are thinking of, gosh, I wonder how much equity I have left in my home now, it's, again, very specific to your town, your city, your neighborhood, and maybe even your street. So if we just took Walnut Creek, for instance, one of the bigger cities around, inventory of homes, again, up 200%, but year-to-date was only 56%. And if we look at their average sales price for Walnut Creek, it was up 14%. So see, you can't just throw a wet blanket over all of real estate and say, oh, you know, the sky is falling, we're crashing, and it's horrible. I wrote an article for my newsletter that's going to hit sometime this week. And the article was called, "Is the Slower Market a Good Thing?" And, you know, the current market slowdown may just be a good thing because we've been at such a breakneck, crazy velocity all through 2021, even before that, really. I saw it in 2018, 2019, through 2021, and through the first half of last year. So the market correcting itself had to happen. It's cyclical. It's cyclical. It goes up, it goes down, right? It just wasn't sustainable. But the uncertain economy makes predicting what real estate's going to do a little harder because there's a lot of different things going on. And I think consumers are slowly adjusting to the new reality. Every time rates go up, buyers kind of step back, they take a pause, and they go off on the sidelines and they sort of wait to see what the interest rates are going to do. And then they go back into the market. I mean, if they want to buy a house, all the signs are showing that interest rates are not going to keep going down. They're never going to be back where we were in the 3s. They're going to dip up and down 5, 6, 7, 6, right around there, and probably continue to go up. So I'm cautiously optimistic that the market will still be strong, and we'll have to see what happens. So really, last year we saw the lowest amount of homes sold in nearly a decade. So that it was a significant change. And in my experience and all of my associates, we have 430 agents just in my office alone. It was really in June. It was almost like a light switch was turned off. It just happened really fast. The multiple offers kind of were mostly gone. The days on market were staying a little longer, and not everybody was getting $50,000, $100,000, $400,000 over list price anymore. It was starting to adjust a little bit. So the chief economist, we follow the California Association of Realtors and the National Association of Realtors economists, and we read what they write. And Lawrence Yun used to be the economist for CAR, California Association of Realtors. Now he's with National Association of Realtors, and he says the recent low point in home sales activity is likely over. Mortgage rates are the dominant factor driving home sales, and recent declines in rates are clearly helping to stabilize the market. So that's good news. And home sales are really directly linked with mortgage rates, right? And every time the Fed lowers or raises their rates, doesn't mean that evenly equates to mortgage interest rates. So just know that as well. So is the market going to crash? What do you think? Who here thinks the market's going to crash? Well, one person. Bruce, we're going to vote you off the island. So with the rapid shift that's happened in real estate in the last 12 years, some people are raising concerns that we're going to crash just like we did in 2008. But there are many reasons why today's market is very, very different. Nothing like 15 years ago. One of the biggest reasons is, like last time, it was the number of foreclosures. Foreclosures are much, 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 much lower. And then recently, there was a company called, I think they were called Black Knight. They did a study, they released a study, and they were saying homes purchased, he said 40% of homeowners were going to be underwater. Well, he was only looking at 2022. That's what the news forgets to say. The news forgets to give what they're saying in context, and they don't give the whole picture. So just be really careful what you believe in the news, right? And if you've stayed in your home for a long time, I bet you have plenty of equity left, right? If you're like my typical client, you bought your home 20, 30, 50 years ago for $80,000 or $150,000, and it's now worth $1.5 million. You've got a lot of equity still there. And the longer you stay in your home, the more equity you're going to gain, and you start to pay off the loan as the house appreciates in value. And we also saw another good sign, which pending home sales rose the first time in 6 months. So pending home sales rose 2.5% from November to December, ending a six straight months of decline. So that's another really good sign. So I don't want to spend too much more time on the market because we could talk about it all day, because I kind of like the numbers. But just suffice it to say that mistake number one is not taking into account how the market has changed since last year. And it's hard because it's so easy to think, well, but my neighbor just 4 doors down sold their house for $400,000 more than now my house is worth, really? But it's the market. It's the market that will tell us what the prices should be. Mistake number two is setting an unsubstantiated asking price. And again, kind of going back to my last comment, it's all about supply and demand and market conditions. And the way you price a home is key, because there's only 3 things that are going to cause a home to sell. Condition, which you're in charge of. Do you want to sell it as is? Can you? Should you? There's some questions I would ask before I would say yes or no to that. So condition is up to you. Price, your realtor is going to give you their price range of where you think you should be when you hit the market. But in the end, you get to choose. Do you want to be in the market, or do you want to be on the market, sitting out here, helping your neighbors sell their home, which is really nice of you. And the third thing is exposure. That's my job. That is your realtor's job. Maximum exposure, talking to the other agents, following up with other agents that have expressed interest, and getting all that information back to you so that you know what people are saying about your home, how they're feeling about it, how they feel it stacks up to the others that are on the market, because you enter a price war and a beauty contest when you go on the market. And so it's up to your realtor to help you win that war. And each home might have a little bit of a different strategy to do that. So pricing is like fishing. How many men here like to go fishing? Only one person fishes? Okay, two people. I like to fish. Okay, women? Any women that like to fish? Okay. We got a few more hands. Thank you very much. It's like you're throwing out the bait, and then you're starting to reel it in, right? And we want the price to make sense based on the competition. But remember, when you're looking at comparable prices, you're looking over your shoulder at things that have already happened. You always have to take into account what's going on today and what do we see happening daily and where do we think the trends are going. And your appraiser is going to do the same thing. When they do an appraisal of your home, they have to put in their report, are you trending up or are you trending down? And that's part of how they come up with their pricing for the lender. So we want to price it so that people want to come by and check it out. And then we want them to drive by and see the front yard and say, wow, it's kind of a cute place. Honey, I think we need to go in and see it. So we're kind of reeling them in a little far. Then we want how we market it to just make each home shine. We want to show it in its very, very best light possible. And most buyers are going to start their search on the internet. So we want to make those pictures just really pop and entice them to come and experience your home in person. And so, as is or renovated, there's a lot of things we can do to update it. And some of those things will depend on your timing. Some people just need their house sold immediately and they need that money in the bank. And they don't have time to be messing around with renovations and remodeling. Other people, time is a flexible thing. They're not in any huge hurry, and they can take the time to do the things that they feel would bring the value of their home up and be more competitive. And of course, it depends on your financing as well. And I know a number of I think there's a couple of real estate companies, mine included, that we do have financing options that if people want to update, remodel, even pay for staging or moving or painting or carpet or flooring, that we have an opportunity that you can, we'll pay for that and then you pay back out of escrow. So you don't have to write a check for that if you just don't want to or you don't have the financial wherewithal to do that. So you can see that we want to fish and we want to draw them in. And if you price it too high, you're really going to be chasing the market. I never recommend that you test the market. Well, let's just test the market and see. Because the first 2 weeks are the most critical. That's when your home is a new listing. That's when the most excitement is for the agents and for the buyers. Everything for the buyers now is right here. So they're going to get a ding on their phone when your home hits the market. They know about it immediately. Everything is so transparent. So you don't want to test the market and hope for the best. You want to go out with your best foot forward. It's like opening night when you go to a play or a musical at the Lesher or ACT in the city. The opening night, they're set. They're looking good. That's how your home should look. Day one. Because if you price it here, and the market really is here, by the time you decide, well, gosh, maybe we need to lower the price, you're here, but now the market's here. and you're just going to be chasing it down. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. And now guess what the buyers want to do? They see you as desperate, and they feel like they can negotiate a little bit harder. So, and I will say, I'll end with this mistake, that there are plenty of agents that will be happy to take your overpriced listing. Happy to. Why? They don't have a whole lot going on. They're not going to get your home sold. It's going to be on the market. It won't be in the market. But they're happy to stick their sign out in your yard and then just keep lowering the price. That is their pricing strategy. And I just caution you to consider that when pricing your home. So mistake 3, we're going to throw this over to Karen. Mistake 3 is failing to stage your home for showings. Do you have to stage your home to sell? No. But we're going to talk about why it's a really smart idea to do so. So Karen, first of all, for those of us that maybe don't know exactly what staging is, do you want to just kind of define that for us?
Staging is, one, not real life. It's not how we live, but it does invite, and again, based on Dayna's comment about pictures, when people are looking on the web, it gives that warm, inviting feeling, and it entices people to want to come see your home. We typically will sell it faster and for over asking price when it is fully staged. And we want to appeal to the masses. When you're, living in your home, you're doing it for your comfort and what's comfortable for you, what makes you happy. What we do for staging is try to appeal to every single person that comes through the door so that they can imagine themselves in that home, not imagine themselves in your home. Perfect.
Are you hearing Karen okay?
No. Oh,
Will you pull it a little forward?
sorry.
There.
I'm usually really loud, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay.
Talk into the mic. Exactly. So are there any statistics that you could share about?
I don't have actual numbers since we don't see the numbers, but based on what we've talked to our realtors about and our numbers, it's always much quicker, staged versus not, and it's always for over asking. Most always.
And I don't know if you can keep promising that.
No, we can't keep promising it. That's based on what we're hearing.
Right. Well, and that's what it's been for sure.
Yep.
So art and a science. I mean, how do you do what you do? You go into a room, and let's first talk about an empty home, and then maybe we'll talk about what we do and how you do it if they're still living there.
Okay.
So how do you go about this with an empty home? Where do you even start?
So with an empty home, we try and the science part would be to make sure that whatever accent color, if we were, you had a beautiful backyard and we wanted to bring that greenery in, we would try and keep those accents of green throughout every single room. It helps the eye and it helps the mind transition all the way through your home. Then, of course, when somebody sees, they may see 10 or 12 homes a day, they're going to say, oh, I really loved that green home. Not the one with the purple walls, but I really loved the green home. It just helps them. It's a flow. It's a process. So that's kind of the science. We will take, if you've got an accent wall that isn't going to be painted, which we don't recommend, but we will work with it, and we will try and coordinate that color through the home. So that's how we kind of pick the colors. But we always need to put a room back to its original purpose. If you have a dining room that's now your craft room, we're going to stage it as a dining room. We need to be able to show what that purpose for that room is.
Yeah, I like bringing rooms back to their highest and best use, right? And they say that buyers really don't have an eye to try to figure out. I mean, when the men come in, what's the first thing they're going to say? We talked about this before. Where's my TV going to go?
Yes.
So we need to show them where we think their TV might go and where the couch could be. right?
Right, yeah.
And, sometimes we will stage a room as a swing room, right? Maybe part office, part day bed, part
Right,
whatever.
multi-purpose,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I think a lot of people, we're staging more, I think, for offices, aren't we? Because a lot of,
More and more people working at home, and there's more people that just want an office, whether it's just to put their laptop or do their bills. They want a space. So typically, we will find, especially if there's 3 bedrooms, we'll do two bedrooms and one made up as an office. That also could be multifunction.
and I like that, sometimes I've had homes, and realtors all have had homes where there might be some sort of glaring feature in a room that we really wish wasn't there, but it's permanent and we can't do much about it. So, stagers can draw the eye away from that with a pop of color, right? Or maybe draw the eye
Or
to
just accentuate something else in the room.
that's
so that you're not
that's a
seeing
wonderful feature,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So, people come in, I don't think they really are thinking all this. They're just seeing a lovely space. And why do we depersonalize, Karen?
So again, we want people to come in and see themselves in this property, not necessarily in your home with your family pictures and your, personalized touches. It's neutral, it's basic, it's purposeful, but it's not your home.
Right. I mean, and this is a hard thing too, because it goes from being your home that you lived in and loved, and the colors you liked, and the way you lived in your home, and then paradigm shift over to it's now a house for sale. It's hard. I just moved, by the way. I downsized myself. We can talk about that later. Moved in 5 days. It can be done. But yeah, we really want those buyers to walk in, and again, remember we went fishing. We've gotten them now through the door. Now we want them to look and say, wow, honey, I could picture us living here. This could be the one, right? Because they're going to see 11 to 14 homes on average. Buyers in this area are going to see 11 to 14 homes on average before they find the one. I dated a lot more guys than that until I found the one. But anyway, 11 to 14 is not that many. So you really want, again, that first exposure to your home to be very positive for that buyer that walks through the door. And it is also, you don't want people necessarily to know who you are. Excuse me. I mean, I've had a buyer come in and say, hey, I knew this guy. I went to school with him, and he was such a jerk. And the other people visiting at the open house heard him say that. That might not help when it comes to the negotiation phase. I'm just saying. Or I had a gentleman that had been with the Secret Service, and he insisted on leaving all of his plaques on the walls. It's just better that people don't know what you do. They may have assumed, oh, well, he's got guns in the house. I mean, you just never know. So you got to be careful with that. Clean, tidy, decluttered. So let's talk about if they're still living there. How do you go about that? Because some people cannot move first. They have to sell their home first, and they don't have a place to go couch surf. So they'll be in their home while we're showing it, while you're having open houses, while you're having, agent showings and such. So how do you do that?
So we would probably come in first as a consultant, tell you what to move, what to take down. Again, it's not real life. So we have, like Dayna said, a lot of you, me included, have been in our homes for 25, 30, 35 years. We have that big, huge, oversized couch chair in the corner. We absolutely love it. Nobody sits in it. That maybe has to come out. We want to show the space. We want to show how much furniture comfortably can fit in here. So there may be items that we need to take down. You might have a built-in bookcase that's filled with all these wonderful books that you read. they need to all come down. Again, we're not trying to sell your personal stuff. We're trying to sell your home and make it aesthetically pleasing for anybody else to come in there. Again, all your personal items need to come down. We'll probably also tell you, take all your jewelry and put that in a safe or put it away. You know, we think that we want to trust anybody that's going to come and pay $1 million for your home, but you don't know who's coming in. So we want all of that removed.
Perfect. I call that editing. We're editing.
We are editing your home.
And most often, those extra pieces of furniture and things can go vacation in the garage. They just need to take a little, they take a little time out there. And that's also a really good time to be thinking about, well, how can you be decluttering? You're moving, you know you're moving anyway. So those things that go into the garage, that's now your pile that you say, well, wait a minute, do we really need to take these things? Or is this now a good time to put it out on the sidewalk and have, Salvation Army come and pick it up or what have you?
And there's also one other point, Dayna.
Yep.
So if you are moving and decide, oh, well, we're going to take, these pieces, but we're not going to take them right now. We'll come get them after escrow, we're already in escrow. That puts a lot of pressure on you as the seller because you've got a very short window to remove all those items, and you're already trying to, get your own home ready and living in, and then that's just one more thing that you need to worry about. Whereas if we come in, if you are moving and stage every single room without any of your items in there, it's not any more cost effective if you leave your items, but it's more of a peace of mind at the end. When the money's transferred and you're done, you just wipe your hands.
Yeah. I mean, every single time that a seller has insisted that they'll take some things and they're going to leave the rest for the stager, I don't know if they think that they're helping the stager, but it actually causes a lot more stress on the seller compared to if they'd just taken everything with them when they left, and then the stager has a blank slate, really, to work with. And what do we do, Karen? What do we say about pet or smoke odors? How do we deal with that?
Yeah. Everybody's home has their own scent. But pet odors, if there's an overwhelming smell of any kind, and, if we live with it, we're used to it. But anybody else coming in, it could really offend them. And I've seen people just turn around and walk right out, not even want to go past the front door. So new carpet, new paint, especially if it needs to be replaced, don't just clean it and hope for the best. Let's just replace it.
Yeah. Paint and carpet, relatively speaking, are inexpensive ways to update your home. And now it's clean and fresh. And frankly, there's a lot of people, especially as you get older, that you actually start to have allergies if you never even had them before. I've started to have allergies. I never grew up having allergies. And so most people do not want carpets that have someone else's pet dander because it's almost impossible to get out. And I've had some people say, well, if there was a cat, I can't even come in, because that's how allergic they are. So kind of something to think about there. Okay, and Karen, mistake number 4, making unnecessary and inappropriate updates. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, so again, we're trying to sell your property, not your personal space. So if items do need to be updated, whether it's the kitchen or the bathroom, we really want to make it as streamlined and as simple as possible without too many colors. It used to be everything was beige, 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 and then it moved to grays. Now grays are moving out, beiges are coming back again. So, as again, we want to give everybody as much of a blank slate, although be it updated. So if something needs to be updated, let's be very careful as to what we're going to update and how. We're happy to help with that as well. For consulting purposes, we can help pick out materials for you, but going in and dumping a whole bunch of money into something that doesn't necessarily need to be updated is probably not the best use.
Right. And I always recommend, ask your agent first, because I've had some people tell me, oh, well, we just did this because we knew we were going to sell and we knew the buyers would like it, and they did the exactly wrong thing, or they put the money in the wrong place. And so, there is a strategy to this, and there's things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. And there's, trends. So if you're doing something now thinking the buyers are going to like it, but you're not selling for 5 years, and you're only doing it to sell your home, don't do it now, because the trends will be completely different in 5 years. So if you want it to be as updated looking and on point, as they say, when you hit the market, then wait. If you're going to do it because you want to enjoy it, then do it now. And do it in the way that you would enjoy, knowing that it may or may not be what the buyers are going to enjoy. Mistake 5 is ignoring showing feedback. So every time a buyer comes and shows a home for sale, the listing agent knows that they've been there, because we have a magic box called a lockbox, and it's computerized. And I know who has gone into your home, when they went in, how long they were there, and then I can pick up the phone and I can ask each and every single one, well, what did you think? What is the level of interest that your buyer has? Do you have any feedback for the seller, good, bad, or otherwise? And does the buyer have any questions that I can answer for you today? How can I help you help your buyer buy this home? I think that's a key thing that needs to be done. Now, when they tell me, agent after agent after agent, well, they loved the home, but gosh, that purple wall. They couldn't get past the purple wall, or they couldn't get past the dirty carpet, or they couldn't get past whatever. Your agent should be telling you those things and being very truthful and honest, because again, you're hiring them to sell your home. And so what we think is okay may not be okay to the buyers. So it's better to know then find a solution to it than not know and just wonder, well, gosh, how come all my neighbors have gone pending and I'm still on the market, right? So it's either condition or exposure or it's priced wrong. But the buyers will tell you what they think of the condition based on the price. Does that make sense? Okay, mistake number 6, I'm not going to go into this a whole lot, but it's not hiring the right real estate agent. And sometimes people say, well, I'm just going to hire my nephew. He just got his license, but I feel so sorry for him because he's never really had a real job, and I said he could sell our house. Well, he may not have experience that you need. He may not have the relationships with the other agents that are so key to have really good relationships with other agents, because we're the ones that are interacting with one another, right? We're working on your behalf, interacting with the other agent, working on their client's behalf. And they may not know how to tell you something that they think would hurt your feelings. And it would be better to know than wonder, right? Some agents lack the support to get everything done. So they're juggling too many things, and they don't have that back office support to get things going, to keep things on track per contract and per timeline. They may be too reliant on technology and not willing to take the time to have face-to-face meetings with you. They may not have the same communication skills that you were expecting of your realtor. When I meet with somebody, and your agent should say, how do you want to be communicated with and how often? And that's how you should be communicated with. If you say, I want to talk to you every Monday at 2, that's what should happen. If you say texting is fine, then that's what should happen. It's up to you. And then also hire an agent that has the resources and referrals necessary. Because I have 3 people here on the panel today. I could very easily have about 33 people up here when we talk about all the different players that are involved in helping to get a home prepared and then closed escrow. It takes a village. There's a lot of different moving parts. It could be an attorney, it could be an appraiser, it could be your escrow officer, it could be a landscaper, handyman. I mean, there's tons of different people that we need. Your mover, your organizer, your move manager, and the list goes on and on. Your stager. And then just having the experience of a later in life move. If you're in a walker and your husband's in a wheelchair, you're not going to be packing up your home. You just can't do it by yourself. So who's going to help you, and how and when? And so your agent should have all these services in place and work with you, with your situation, to get you happily, moved and healthily in your next home. That would be what they should be doing. Mistake number 7 is where we ask Kurt to step up to the plate, because it's failing to do a pre-sale inspection. And some sellers say, oh, well, we don't need to do that. The buyers are going to do those inspections. We'll let them spend the money. But Kurt's going to tell you, or I can tell you, why typically that might not be the best course of action. So, Kurt, tell us what type of inspections, or maybe I should, buyers usually would want to see,
No
or
problem.
sellers should do prior.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
The difference, there's 2 types of inspections. There's what's called a listing inspection or a pre-sale inspection. That's where the seller of the property is paying for the inspections. And then there's... Sure, sorry. And then there is also inspections for a buyer. That's where the buyers put an offer on your house and says contingent to getting it inspected. We'll negotiate from there. So I think the point that she's driving to is that if you're getting ready to sell your house, you have an opportunity to be proactive, which is getting your home inspected, because chances are you're going to be selling your house for over $1 million. Nobody's going to buy it unless it's checked out by somebody. That's like you buying a used car and not taking it to your mechanic to get checked out. It's the same thing with a home. So if you're going to be proactive, you're going to know about everything that's going on in your building before it hits the market. You have an opportunity to correct some of these items, and then you also have the opportunity to use our report as a professional disclosure. Here's what's going on with my property. And most of the time, there are several inspections that are done. There's a home inspection, there's a pest inspection, roof inspection, and a sewer lateral inspection. Those are typically the 4 that agents are looking for to protect their clients during a purchase of a property. So I would say right now, today, that we are doing 85% listing inspections or pre-sale inspections, and only 15% for buyers, because that's the way that the market has turned. Years ago, it wasn't that way, but now this is the safe way to do it. It's the most efficient way to do it, because all the inspections are right there. When the buyer's looking at a house, here you go. This is what's going on.
Perfect. I mean, the idea is to keep the seller in the driver's seat, to keep you the captain of your own ship. You don't want any surprises. So we may feel that, well, I've kept my home up. It's nice. We keep it clean, and we don't know that there's been a slow drip under the hall bathroom for the last 10 years, because how often do we go under the house? I mean, I've never been under my house. So these things can show up, And you don't need to fix it all, but you're definitely going to be able to disclose it. So you need to decide, and your agent will help you decide, do we want to disclose, repair, or replace? But you got to keep in mind, if you don't repair or replace it, then now the buyer needs to do that. And it's not like if you don't do these inspections, the buyer won't find out. Because they'll bring their own inspectors, and they're going to see the leak underneath the hall bathroom that's been going on for 10 years. So here you've listed your home at a price that was reasonable based on everything being in good working order, and now you're finding out you've got some electrical, you've got some plumbing issues, you've got some dry rot on the outside, which is all very, 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 very common. And now the buyer says, well, gosh, this house really is in bad shape. What else are we going to find? And now they start wanting to take a haircut on the price that they offered. Because when they offered that price, they had no idea that there were all these things going on that now they have to spend the time and the energy and the money to fix. Kurt mentioned home, pest, roof, and what'd you say, sewer lateral?
Sewer lateral.
I also recommend chimney inspections. I had a client that the chimney looked great, and I still said, you still might want to check it out. They did, and it needed $10,000 of work. If you're missing tiles way, way, way up there, and you have a fire, could be bad, right, Kurt?
Absolutely.
Could be really bad.
And you really can't inspect a chimney until it's been cleaned first.
Right.
You look up as many chimneys as I have. You can't. It's impossible to inspect a chimney unless it's been brushed out and cleaned so you can see all the flue tiles, and that takes a chimney sweep to do that.
Right. So when we do a chimney inspection, they're going to automatically clean it first and then inspect it. So although you're not a pest inspector, Kurt, what does a pest inspector look for? And you sometimes overlap with them.
Yeah, pest inspectors are looking for active wood-destroying organisms, which is termites, dry rot, any type of infection with bugs, and things that could lead to wood-destroying organisms, such as poor paint where it's absorbing water into the siding, things like that. And then they also, the third thing, they have section 1 is active wood-destroying organisms. Section 2 in their report is things that could lead to wood-destroying organisms. And then the third thing is further review. They can't see something. We couldn't get through the whole crawl space. They couldn't get into the attic or whatever that might be. Because right now, with this last rainstorm we've had, most crawl spaces have got a couple inches of water or very damp if they don't have good drainage around the perimeter of the building. So that would be a section 3 item where they couldn't get in.
Yeah. I mean, I had Kurt and my pest inspector come and do inspections on my home years and years and years and years ago, just for my own edification. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have inches of standing water under the house, or that I didn't have a leak under someplace that we didn't know about. And sure enough, Merry Christmas Wilsons, we ended up having to spend about $6,000 because we had some termites that we discovered when we pulled out a piece of board where we wanted to pour a new patio. So it gave us the opportunity to maintain our home, really. We weren't selling, but it's all part of maintaining your home. And so, Kurt, action items, consideration items, now tell us what you look for and how long it takes and where do you go?
How long does it take? It typically takes between an hour to 2 hours for the whole home inspection. And what we're looking for is health and safety items, things that aren't operating, things that could be a safety concern, a crack in a walkway that's a trip hazard, some bare wires that are exposed, a furnace that's not operating properly. That would be what we call an action item. That's something that needs attention. And then after that are consideration items. Caulking around sinks, caulking in showers, maintenance kind of things. So it's a little bit of both. The action items are the things that have to do with health and safety, and then the consideration items. Now, keep one thing in mind, and Dayna knows this, that there really are only 3 things that you have to have in the state of California to sell your house. The first thing is you need a smoke detector in every sleeping room and adjacent to, which means it has to be out in the hallway. You need a carbon monoxide detector on each level. Each level is required to have a carbon monoxide detector. And the third thing is your water heater needs to be strapped properly. If it's not strapped properly or doesn't have any earthquake strapping at all, you can't sell the house. Those 3 things are steadfast. You can't sell your house unless you have those 3 things. So somebody has to check those out, and that's what we do.
Perfect. And what do you say as the most common things that you find?
Common?
Yeah.
It's hard to say after 24 years, but things that people aren't aware of is that between the garage and the living quarters of your home, you have certain fire protective barriers that have to be there. You have to have 5/8 fire curb drywall between the garage and the home without any penetrations. Your door between the garage and the living quarters has to be a solid core, self-closing, fire-rated door. 60% of all home fires start in a garage, so you have to have these fire protective barriers between the garage and the house. But people a garage is, we always find things in garages because somebody wants a light over here, so they take some Romex wire, they think they watch some DIY show, and they staple Romex onto the ceiling and put up a light fixture over in the corner. Well, you can't have exposed wiring, you can't have surface run Romex like that. So garages are probably the biggest place, and then the most expensive place we find issues are in the crawl space. Because just like Dayna said, you don't go into your house every day. Well, you might think that the floors are a little bit out of level because everybody likes to call it a settlement, But then you get into issues with the foundation that you would not know that you have a foundation issue unless one of us goes down there and gets eye to eye with your foundation all the way around the perimeter of your building. But just because you have issues with your foundation doesn't mean that you need to tear down the house and rebuild the foundation. There's many repairs nowadays that the foundation companies can do to a cracked foundation, to a settled foundation. They do mud jacking. There's just all kinds of things that they can do to fix those things. But to know about it ahead of time is much better than finding out from the buyer of the house that their structural engineer says now the foundation needs $30,000 worth of repairs, and they want that off the price. Whereas you could have taken care of that in the beginning by knowing about it, having a pre-sale inspection done, have Dayna have her foundation guy come out and look at it, and chances are it will be a lot less than the $30,000 that the buyer is bringing to you.
Yeah, and a lot of these repairs, the work will be typically warranted, so that gives the buyer peace of mind that you have done it. Even in the contract, it says it must be done in a professional, workmanship-like manner. So it's best not to have your nephew who's, off for the quarter of college come and fix your foundation. You want someone that is licensed and insured to do the work. Sometimes home sellers want to do their own work. They're handy, and they can do the work. But we just ask that you save all the receipts and you say who did the work and on what date. May not make the buyer feel quite as comfortable that the home seller is doing it. I've had home sellers even do their own pest spraying. Well, I can just go down to Ace and get the chemicals and spray. Like, well, I don't know. Comment?
Yeah, no, they can't. Only the pest control operators can get the proper chemicals to treat for termites and all of the. It's not sold at Home Depot or Lowe's. You have to have a special license for that.
Thank you for clarifying that. Oh, man. So the beauty of what Kurt provides then is, and don't panic, it's going to be a 40 to 50 page report. And you're going to think your house is falling apart. And it's not. That's your normal report, right, Kurt?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so he is there almost like he's like the house doctor, really, because he's going to tell you the health and safety. He's going to tell you those action items that are currently kind of destroying your home that need to be fixed, or the health and safety. And then there's consideration items, which could be things that still need to be fixed, but a lot of them don't. Then he gives you a whole maintenance list of things that need to be kept up. And I think a lot of people get just shocked thinking, oh my gosh, all these things are wrong with my house. But I find that those are the clients that have not maintained their home. Because a home is an expensive endeavor. It's expensive to own a home, and you have to keep it up, just like we have to keep our bodies up, right? So it's not a bad idea to even have an inspection once in a while, just for your own knowledge of what's going on. And if you think you're going to sell your home the next 5 years, you may want to know now, and you can slowly be doing some of the work now, taking your time and spreading out the financial burden of that. Okay, so based on the reports, the next mistake is failing to disclose. And this is where it can come and bite you on the rear end. And we don't want that. So again, we already talked about this really, which is, disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. It's not location, location, location. It's disclose, 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 because it's CYA. It covers your assets. You do not want something coming back to the buyer after you've closed escrow that they just heard about from the neighbor. You don't want the neighbor to come by and say, "Oh, welcome to the neighborhood. Did you know that my husband and Mr. Smith have been arguing about the boundary line for 30 years?" Or an attorney does a quarterly risk management event for all agents in different brokerages. And, she tells us all these horror stories and the things that end up going to court. So, for instance, there was a seller in Danville. They had a beautiful, beautiful heritage oak tree in their front yard. They did not disclose that it had beetles that were slowly killing the tree. They knew about it, they didn't disclose it. Well, half of the tree fell apart, hit the house. Turned out the seller should have disclosed it, and then everybody went to court and sued everybody, and it wasn't good. So it only protects you. It can't hurt you to disclose anything, because someone's going to find out anyway, and you don't want the neighbors to be the ones to tell them after the fact and then have them come back looking for you saying, no, if we'd known this, we would not have purchased the home. So again, your agent will guide you through a nice stack of disclosures about yay thick. It's thicker than the purchase agreement and all the associated docs. There's a lot of things the seller is required to disclose. And I'll just walk you through line by line, and we'll discuss it. And there's no maybe. It's like you're either pregnant or you're not. It either is a yes or a no. There's no, well, maybe, and this and that. It's like, no, yes or no. So I'll help you fill those out. So they are correct and truthful. And if I know something, if your agent knows something, and the seller says, but I don't want you to share it, we have an ethical duty to share it, or we would lose our license. And I don't mean to say to hide anything from your agent, absolutely not. But just know that whatever you share, your agent now has to put on their agent visual inspection as well. So something to keep in mind there. Okay, mistake 9, inadequate documentation. And we'll talk more about that later in the year. But, if your home is in a trust, make sure you've got the summary of the trust available. Sometimes the title company is going to want to see it. If there's been a death, if Mr. and Mrs. Smith are still on title and Mr. Smith has passed away, the escrow officer is going to want to see a certified copy of the death certificate. there's just some, sometimes it's a divorce decree that they need. And then we'll also use the preliminary title report as something that may be needed to be addressed, something to be disclosed. You might find an old lien on there that you paid off, but it's still on your title. You have to have a clear title to pass on to the new buyer. So that's something else you can be working on too before you get into escrow. I'm going to now go to mistake number 10, which is uninformed on how to hire a moving company so that you can avoid nightmare moves and scams. So I'm going to just tee up Stephanie on this one and ask her, well, you can talk about those 5 questions that we should be asking our mover.
Sure. So once we are the last kind of point of contact before you end up in your new forever home. It's important to make sure that you do your research on moving companies. There are a lot of wonderful companies out there, and there are ones that you should avoid. And so asking questions like, are you properly licensed with a physical local address? We are regulated by the Bureau of Household Goods and Services. Online, they list our company ID. If we're active with our license, it's not a business license, it's a specific moving license with this division. They provide contact information and all the insurance policies that mover carries: cargo, personal liability, property damage, and workman's comp. If you use a mover who doesn't have these proper licenses, if something should go wrong, who's then the one to handle it? You. If household goods are moved on public roads and you're not using a licensed mover and an accident happened, there's no liability coverage. They're going to come for the person who hired that mover. So that's why it's just so important to go online. Again, Bureau of Household Goods and Services, BHGS, and you can look up a carrier. Also, having a local address. If something does go wrong, having someone locally with a physical office, an office manager, the owner, not just a phone number where you're kind of tossed around. You can actually physically go there and work out should it get that point, but hopefully not. Number 2, what kind of liability coverage options does your company provide? All regulated movers provide you basic liability insurance coverage. That's at 60 cents per pound per article that you're moving. So if something were to weigh 100 pounds and it's damaged during your move, the liability is $60. Doesn't seem like a lot. There are other ways you can look into that. Well, first of all, if you hire a mover that has excellent referrals, which we'll get to in a minute, where they take care of things if accidents happen, that's your first way to go about preventing that. The other is we do offer, all movers offer other types of insurance. There are full replacement and actual cash. Most of for our company, we don't really push that. We don't recommend that. There are other avenues that you can go to. It's expensive. You can ask your homeowner's insurance if they cover goods in transit. So then you're covered by your homeowner's goods in transit and the basic valuation. But if you've got, that expensive piece of artwork, take it in your car, mitigate your risk. But if you have a whole household value that is a lot of art pieces, a lot of antiques, then that's an avenue you can discuss with the mover.
Perfect.
My third suggestion is looking at testimonials that reflect on the company and the reputation. Yes, we've got Google, we've got Yelp. Those aren't as organic as if you go to like a Nextdoor and you ask, or a Facebook group like in La Miranda. There's something called La Miranda Families. You can't pay to implement your the reputation is as organic as it can be on those types of things. Also talk to your realtor. Many moving companies will have established relationships with realtors and brokers, and companies that have those established relationships, we want to make the realtor shine. We don't want to be a problem. We are the continuation of the excellent service that you've gotten from that realtor. So you want to look for companies that have those relationships. Will you provide a written binding not to exceed estimate? If you call companies and a company is not willing to come out to give you a written in-person estimate, I find that to be a red flag. If they're not able to take time out of their day to walk through your home to see what you're taking, what you're not taking, what access is like, are there stairs, are there low-hanging trees, do we have to shuttle out of the home? Those are all things that are going to affect the price of your move. If someone tells you, gives you an estimate on a business card or tells you, oh, I think it'll be about $3,000, that's never legally binding. We often then see change orders happen where they show up and say, oh, I didn't know you had this, $1,500 more. That's extortion, because if you need to be out, that's like we talked about earlier about knowledge is power and having all of your ducks in a row beforehand. That's why that written estimate is so important. With that estimate, though, you also need to make sure that you're just checking, comparing apples to apples as best as possible. All moving companies, we're like fruit, but one is an orange and one is an apple. So how can you compare them? It's not just about the price. On the back of the estimate is the table for measurements. That will show you what the mover is moving. You want to make sure all your large items are on there, the beds, your dressers, all the furniture items. You also want to check the contents, make sure the number of boxes are about the same. It isn't, movers are efficient, but they also, the more things, you could say, I don't have a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, we always kind of downplay the amount of items that we have, and you just don't want a mover to do that, and then come move day, do a change order. And then who will be showing up in my home and handling all my belongings? Are you a broker or a carrier? So a broker, do they sell the job and subcontract it out to someone else? Or are they using their own full-time employees? Do they hire day laborers? Those are important questions to ask, because often the estimator isn't going to be on your job. Sometimes they can be, but most often they're not. So you want to make sure you know all that information beforehand. And I think those are my 5 most important.
Well, and you want to make sure that on the day of the move, your movers aren't showing up with alcohol or marijuana on their breath. They are not maybe wearing prison anklets. You just don't know. You just don't know. So, I think that would be important to me, but it's up to you. And it's sort of like you get what you pay for.
You do.
Yeah.
It's we're a service industry base, so we do provide, thinking of our company, we provide competitive wages for our employees, but they also receive tips. And that's obviously subjective to what you're able to do, but they look for that to supplement as well. But some companies, we provide full health care for our guys, 100% paid Kaiser, because we find that their health is so vital to making sure that they show up to you strong, willing, and able to perform the duties.
Nice. And do you offer any senior discounts?
We do. So we do offer a senior discount, 65 and older, and we offer packing services, unpacking services, material delivery, free material delivery locally, and other things as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, my gosh, we've covered a lot of ground, but I want to leave a couple hot minutes for questions. So let's get to that, then we'll do a raffle and get you out of here as close to on time as possible. So, let's see. Is this on? Who's got a question? Okay. Here you go.
Yes, I do. Thank you. My question is for Karen, and it has to do with the staging. My husband and I are going to move back east. So if we haven't gotten fully out of our house, but you or whoever comes in to stage it, where do our possessions go? I mean, the garage, I mean, presumably people want to come in and look at the garage as well, so you don't want it full of furniture and boxes and so forth. So how
Right.
do you handle that?
Well, depending on how many items you had, if you're taking them back east with you, it might be better to get a pod or something like that. I'm not sure how you're moving things. I don't mean to just moving services, but I don't know if that's an option for you, or we would, if we were the ones to be moving those items into the garage, we would stack them to one side, nice and neat. Hopefully all of your garage items have already been removed or at least pared down, so that what's there is only what you're taking with you.
And oftentimes you can ask your mover if we provide short-term storage as well. So sometimes customers will move out all of their belongings, will store it while they stage, and then you'll move from storage.
And I will say from the realtor standpoint, people know people are moving. There's no problem having things in the garage. Where the problem comes along is if Kurt shows up and he says, I can't inspect the walls of the garage because they're covered with things, there's the problem. Because sometimes little termites and things are hiding in the corners, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So pile it high in the middle.
I wanted to know the names of your companies again, because I missed that. Oh, okay.
So, are you a newbie? Oh, she's a newbie. So, we always send out an email afterwards saying, thank you so much for coming, and we list all the contact information of our wonderful speakers. So you'll be able to know exactly who they are and how to get a hold of them. But Stephanie's with Anderson Brothers Movers. Again, Karen is with Janice Style Staging, and Kurt is with Lenhart Home Services, Home Inspections. There were some other hands over here.
Ladies first. I have several questions that I'll clump together as pertaining to Realtor. When we bought our house 37 years ago, it was a standard fixed commission at the time. And since then, I heard about commissions are negotiable. And so if you could address that. And I also heard way back when not to use the same realtor for buying as well as selling. Has that changed? And lastly, how do you find a realtor? Because I would not want to repeat the experience that we had initially.
Well, I'll try to answer some of these. Okay. All right. Commissions have always been negotiable, always. There are industry standards, and sometimes it depends on what you're getting. So there are discount brokers out there that'll sell your home for 1%. Just be careful and understand what you're getting, okay? So those are negotiable. There are industry standards, and each brokerage actually may have a threshold that they don't go below. And it just depends on the business practice of the realtor. And then again, who you're comfortable with, right? Comfortable and confident in their abilities. So I wouldn't go so much on the fees as ask them what their sold over list price percentage might be. Like, what are you actually, who's going to net you the most amount of money? How about that? And what was your third question? Oh, well, I might know one, but well, I can help you find someone in another area if you'd like. Yeah. I mean, you can ask your friends. Yeah, I mean, again, people will call me saying, well, Dayna, I'm going to use you to sell my home here, but we're moving to Iowa, and we're going to need a realtor. So I'll do the homework for them. I'll do some interviewing over the phone, and I'll get it down to 1 or 2 agents that you can then interview and see if you're comfortable with, based on what you want and need in that agent and your expectations, and if they have the bandwidth, et cetera. But I'm only going to talk to the top agents with lots of experience. You had some more. Yeah, I mean, I've charged 7. Some people have charged 7. I've never charged 4 ever. But it depends what you're getting for that, right? Like I had to personally empty out an acre of heavy machinery, and that came out of my commission. And I don't even want to tell you how many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that was, but the gentleman did not have the money, and it would not close until it was cleared. So that's how we got around that I got paid back out of escrow. So there's ways to work around that. That was not your question. Okay, one more, that's it.
2 questions. One for home inspection, just general price range for a pre-sale inspection. And this may be a little delicate because we have stager here, but my brother-in-law used virtual staging, which is like $400 on an empty place, and it worked quite well. But, you know, obviously there's pros and cons. People actually want to see the space with the furniture if they go look, but they can see it on the web, and it does give them the invite. So what are those, I don't want to say pros and cons, but what's some of the feeling about that?
No, there are some pros and cons. And I'll let you answer this too. But as far as virtual staging, I used virtual staging during the pandemic. We had quite a few months where people were not allowed to show an occupied home. And here we have clients that have to move and sell their home. And they wanted their home staged. What do we do? So virtual staging can be effective for the right situations. They can even take a picture of a room with your things in it and edit things out. It's magic. They can slap a fire in your fireplace. They can make the cloudy skies blue. It's amazing. But you don't want to falsely advertise either, right? Like I've seen them go so far as I've seen some other agents have them make the dead lawn green. I think that's false advertising, you know, when it's really dead and gone. What did you want to say about that?
So we've also seen virtual staging. And again, now that people are coming back out and they're walking in, but they're first, you know, maybe they're looking at Realtor.com or they're looking at Zillow so that they can see the pictures. That's what's going to entice them to want to see that property. Then they walk through the front door and there's nothing there. And they're like, wait, this isn't the same house. You know, so it helps people. Most people cannot visualize, especially if it's an empty home. They can't visualize, is my full-size couch going to fit here? Or is my, 60-inch TV going to fit on that wall? They don't have the wherewithal to imagine that. So that's what our job is to help people understand that a queen-size bed and 2 full nightstands can actually fit in this bedroom so that everybody's furniture, when you're coming with all of your stuff, it's actually going to work in that home.
And we'll take maybe 1 or 2 more. Oh, I'm sorry, Kurt. You had a question. I'm so sorry.
Price on a home inspection varies by the square footage of the home, but average is going to be between $400 and $600.
Hi. Just, I guess I have a quick question for Kurt and one for Karen. You mentioned false advertising, and I've always been a little cynical about stagers that use miniature size stuff. Beds that aren't anywhere near regular size beds. So I'd appreciate if you could comment on that. And then I have a real quick question for Kurt too, if I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because my team, which is, an old lady, is doing most of the heavy lifting, I'm not using mattresses in most cases. But they are still the same dimensions as a queen-size bed. We use full-size furniture. It is to scale for the room. I'm not going to go in and put a huge sectional into a small room, because it's not going, we want people to be able to visualize the space. So we're doing size appropriate and full-size furniture in a staged home.
Good, that's the way it should be. I wish all stagers did that.
Yep.
And just for Kurt, I was just curious, you always hear about sort of concerns about, I just lost the term. When the same people do an inspection and then fix the problem, what's the term I'm looking for? Conflict of interest. Just your thoughts on that?
That's a very good question, and always use certified inspectors. I'm certified through CREA, the California Real Estate Inspectors Association. So part of our standards of practice is that we are not allowed to do any work on any of the buildings that we inspect. That way we're always a neutral third party. We're just giving everybody the information on this building. And then, as Dayna knows, then they can take our report, send that out to the appropriate contractors, and get estimates for the repairs. But that's very good. Yeah, I would never want to do any repairs on the buildings that I inspect. No.
And sometimes the pest inspectors, a lot of the pest inspector companies have a construction side. And so you can use them and not pay a reinspection fee to get a clearance. Or you can compare them by getting a second bid from a contractor, compare the prices, and know that if the work is done by another company, you're going to be paying the reinspection fee to get the clearance. So it's completely up to you. Yeah. Okay, well, look at this. It is 11:30. I promised to get you out on time, so we're going to do the raffle real quickly and then get you on your way to go enjoy this sunny day. So Stephanie, please read the number.
Let's see here. We have 466311.
All right.
Woohoo!
And who, Fleeta, do you? Come up and you can tell them what it is and who you are, and real quickly hand out your wonderful.
I'm from Atria, so in the bag is some sparkling wine, some chocolate hearts, and a recipe book from the residents at Atria.
Awesome.
I want to win that.
For anybody who's still cooking.
So is there one or two?
There's two.
Oh, there's two. Okay,
Another.
one more.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
All right.
Thank you, Fleeta.
So the last three are 336.
Who's got 336? Thank you.
Woohoo!
Who got it?
Over there.
Oh, nice. That's the
Yay.
lucky corner today. Thank you, Atria, for bringing that raffle. And we will see you all. Now, leave your evaluations on your chair and leave your name tags in the basket as you leave.